And welcome back with this week's Who Will Win. This week's Who Will Win, as I said, is a shout out to Carlos Blanco. I believe it's Blanco. It's Blanco or Blanco. Sorry, I didn't check your. I could have swore I wrote down the name, but you know what? I'm actually going to check that real quick. Anyway, but yes, I think it's Blanco. That was it. Point being is that Pac Man versus Danny Phantom. Yes, you heard that right. And now, at first, when he gave me the suggestion, I was a little hesitant because I'm like, it's Pac Man. Pac Man really doesn't have anything. He eats the ghost, he eats the pelt to eat the ghost, so he can get hit by the ghost. He's down in one hit. Danny Phantom would kick his ass. But then I found his, what was it, The Adventures of Pac Man or something like that, game. And I think there's an animated cartoon with it too, the game more or less that went with it. And it quickly became obvious that, oh no, wait, no, Pac Man actually has quite a string of abilities. Quite a lot of abilities, actually. Okay, maybe I can do this fight. So, that's what I'm doing. So, I'm going to go over Danny Phantom real quick, because I did that in the Ben 10 versus Danny Phantom. I already did Danny Phantom in the Ben 10 versus Danny Phantom fight. Danny is, by the end of the series, which is what we're using, is a 16-year-old kid. And I didn't look like he grew that much. I think he's not super short. He's definitely not short, but he's not overly tall. He's about a 16... I was 6 foot at 16. I was 6 foot at 12. So I had a major growth spurt very fast. But Danny doesn't look like he's hit that. Now, granted, if you look at Dan Phantom in that Ultimate Enemy movie, he is taller than Danny by like a good foot. So he's probably about 6 foot something by the time he reaches adulthood. But and you look at his mom and dad; they're both actually tall for their. Maddie's tall for her gender, and Jack is just extremely tall. Jack looks like he's like 7 foot tall. For God's sake. Sorry, I thought you'd be swimming on my side of the gene pool. The side is covered in ranch dressing and fudge. Lots and lots of fudge. Anyway. What the? A stick was digging into my shoe. But no, Jack's a pretty tall guy. Danny would probably be like, looking at Dan compared to Danny, and maybe even Jack, he's probably about like 6'3", maybe 6'4". So he's probably a tall guy. Danny's probably about 5'6" or 7", I'd say. Maybe even 5'8". But he's definitely not 6 foot. He's not like the jocks in high school. Whatever their names were, I can't remember them off the top of my head. So he's about an average height kid. Lanky though, but athletic. Lanky, but not. He's thin. He's lanky. He's got an okay build for his, especially since he's fighting ghosts all the time. You get into his ghost for. He's a bit of a hothead, but he can also think things out too. He actually can be a strategist, which is impressive for him, especially by the end of the series. He's decently strong. He's capable of lifting a couple tons at least. He can fly at least about 300 miles an hour, I think I estimated by the end of the video. Got all of his ghost abilities: intangibility, invisibility, flight, possession, duplication. That takes a lot out of him, however. All of his ectoblast, like ectoblast, shield, sonic scream, cryokinesis, and all other sub-abilities that go with that. But he's not invincible by sure. He's been beaten quite a few times. He's just bounced back. So Danny Phantom, everyone. Pac-Man now. Pac-Man is interesting. Now, to understand Pac-Man, I had to look at the game as a good representation of how we would do an actual combat. Now, in the game, it's a Pac-Man world, all that. Pac-Man seems to be represented in the form of like a 10 to 12-year-old kid. Seems to sound that way, anyway. He's only about 4 feet tall, so Pac-Man's like that. Danny's got a good 1.5 foot on him. Loves to eat. He loves to eat. He's trying to, save the ghosts. To talk about Pac-Man, you have to talk about the ghosts and how he deals with eating the ghosts. Apparently, his digestive system mouth are evolved in a way that they can actually eat ectoplasm. And since ghosts, I assume, are already intangible in that world, he can, I guess, bite through intangibility. However, the ghost in his world I watched like a couple of Let's Plays, but I didn't actually see all the ghosts. I assume that all the ghosts in his world are generally small, or most of them, are generally smaller than him, so he can eat them in one bite. Danny's not smaller than him, so he can't eat Danny in one bite. In fact, I'm not certain he'd be able to eat Danny. We'll get to that when we get to that, but to sum it up, I'm not certain he would like in his world. The ghosts are so it can hurt him, but they also are so frail that they can just be eaten in one gulp and just dissipate. Danny's more durable, partly because he's half human also, though Pac-Man can eat just about anything. But I think he's durable enough to not just be suddenly devoured in one bite, but he could still possibly be hurt and maybe even eaten. But anyway, he's got a lot of different abilities, not even including his power-up pellets or his berries. He's got the butt bounce, which if he does it 3 times, lands, it can do a shockwave, explosion, destroy, terminates targets around him. A world dash attack. It's got the pack dots, which he shoots like little balls, super shots. Steel ball power up, which hardens him like hardens damage, which hardens him up and hardly takes damage. He can even survive like immense heat. Teeny shrink pellet turns him into Teeny Pac-Man. He can be squashed, but he's immensely aware of his surroundings, so he's rarely ever squashed. He also has a few things that are unique to him. Electroshocks, like damaging stun whips, and Ribbon Energy Ring. An Aftermath Energy Ring that kind of can combine into one ring and like move in on an opponent. Very interesting. But then he has all of his power-up pellets, which is a lot. He's got the Power Berry, which is gives him strength. Flying Berry, which lets him fly. Spider Berry, which gives him Spider-like abilities. Shoots webs. Brain Berry, which gives him super intelligence. Ice Berry, ice abilities. Fire Breath Berry. Chameleon, and it gets fire resistance as well. Chameleon Berry gives him super long tongue and invisibility. Titanium Berry gives him gives him the ability to drill through things and magnetic properties. Paczilla Berry turns him into Godzilla for about 5-10 minutes, or a Pac-Man-esque Godzilla. Growberry makes him not as big, but still big, and height and strength and all that for about a minute. Vacuum Berry lets him suck up ghosts from a distance. Rubber Berry, super speed and bouncing, but a lack of actual maneuverability. Plasma Berry, one giant super shot. Close Combat Berry, heightened physical abilities for advanced combat. Gale Force Berry, when he opens his mouth, Gale Force winds come out. Elderberry turns into a giant ape monster. Planet Berry turns into an Earth-like planet for a short time. I have no idea what that would do in a fight, but whatever. Garlic Berry, a jack-o'-lantern-shaped gas bomb. Drillberry, riding a giant drill for speed. Rocket Berry, rockets for speed. And Wizardberry, magic. It doesn't need to say what the magic is, just magic. Now, to understand how this fight would probably break down, you gotta think of again, I always go with the most realistic scenario, whether they know about each other or not. I'd say that when trying to get back to Earth from the Ghost Zone, Danny Phantom ends up in whatever the name is, Pac City, whatever, or Pac-Man, and the ghosts are overrun. And then he starts fighting the ghosts, and he's like, "Oh my God, the ghosts are turning on each other! I gotta help!" Oh wait, Pac. Maybe it's not a bad ghost. He is attacking you, I guess. He's like, no, it's a bad ghost. I gotta go, because he's a kid. He's a bit of a hot kid. Doesn't think unless it's eats the brain. Yeah, we'll start off with the fact that he eats the brain to things like, it's possible, but he's more than likely, statistically speaking, that he's an evil ghost here to destroy. He looks different, though. He looks odd and strange. I have to defeat him. All right, then. And then he just bounces in with the rubber, just boing, boing. All right, I'm going to take you on. What are you? And then the fight breaks down. So Pac-Man tries to maybe bounce in, trying to chomp on him. Danny Dot gets out of the way. He's like, what the heck? And just blasts him. Now, Pac-Man, from what I can tell, can eat a lot of ghosts and gain extra lives. He starts out with 3 lives with 3 heart points each. So, and he's not durable. He's durable enough to take a hit 3 times, but then he's down a life. So he gets hit by Danny's ectoblast. Whoa! It's like, he's still standing. All right, yeah. It's like, oh yeah, wow. It eats the vacuum, about to suck Danny in. Oh god. And then but instead he counteracts with a giant blast of energy straight into Pac-Man's throat, which would probably hurt, because that's something Danny would do. It's like, because if he's that close at going out like 300 miles an hour, he's not going to avoid the vacuum. He might try to backpedal, but he's going to keep going. It's going to be something like this, like, yeah, and then just blast him. Pac-Man's, oh god, let's say Pac-Man's down to like 3 lives. Starts with 3 lives. So he's down to his heart. Certainly eats a couple ghosts from his like whoop, 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 and then his life goes back up, or his heart points go up. No, it increases his life. And he also in Pac City there's foods and stuff that can get. Sorry, he also like eats the hammer. He's back up to full health. So it's like, oh, and he's like, okay. So now Pat's like, oh, all right then. The chameleon disappears. What? And then all of a sudden, uses the grow fruit. By the way, I'm imagining he has all the fruit on him right now, like the berries on him in like a pouch. Grow, I'm gonna eat you! Oh god! Ah! Danny gets great. Maybe his arm gets shot. Then, oh god! Oh my god! Oh my god! He's able. Luckily, I think he'd be able to in ghost form at least, because he goes and tries to go intangible with that probably. He would probably. That's the thing. He could try to go intangible, but the thing is that he could still be eaten. However, intangibility works differently for Danny than it does the ghosts, I think. Again, partly being human, and also he can do a lot of weird things when he's intangible too. He can change his body. That being said, he's still. You know what I honestly see happening going intangible being eaten? He's not dead. He's in Pac Man's gullet, and the shrinkings happens. All of a sudden, he's actually feeling the stomach acids of Pac Man go. Starting to hurt. Is like, oh my god, what? He can hurt me? I'm like, I'm intangible. He can hurt me. Oh god. Now I'm going to argue this one point I'm going to make. He's going to phase out of Pac Man's stomach, and I say the reason he's going to phase is because anytime you actually see Pac Man eat one of the ghosts, first off, they're smaller than he is. And they go bloop. They just blood. They disintegrate anytime you see him bite the Pac Man or the ghosts. So, that's why they pretty much are, eaten, dissipated, gone. Danny is swallowed whole in this scenario, so I think that's why they're pretty much, for lack of a better term, the ghosts are dead. Danny is swallowed whole. He could probably, I think he can phase out of Pac. And Pac-Man's like, wait, what? How did he do that? And he's like, yeah. So it's like, all right, buddy, this is getting ridiculous. It shrinks back down. Now, at this point, he's probably going to be like, he's probably going to use his fly fruit, which basically makes him negate gravity. Flies up to Danny. He's like, yeah! And then close combat, they fight for a little bit. Do. Danny's like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. Enough! When then just goes, the sonic wail, the ghostly wail, the fruits are suddenly scattered. He just, what was that? And he's like, actually, no. He might tire him up. He doesn't revert back to his normal form as he used to. It's like, all right, buddy, time to finish his charges in. Giant blast ready. And Pac-Man just takes a random fruit. All of a sudden, super shot plasma. Danny's now. Oh, that didn't tickle. He's like, oh, all right, no, okay, gotta find my fruit. So now, at that point, he's now running low on fruit. So I was like, okay, then fine. Oh, that's a specimen. And then he just goes fire breath. Whoa! Ice. Danny counters with like maybe an ice wall. The ice wall slowly melts, but he gets out of the way. Starts firing ice at him. Pac-Man then goes and uses the minty fresh berry. They go back to fighting with ice, baby, so cold. I was like, what? What was that? I was like, I have no idea. Some guy talking about us. I don't know. So they go back and they're fighting with ice. Now Pac-Man's starting to run low on stuff. It's like, oh man, this isn't good. I'm starting to run out of stuff. So he is. I'm trying to think now. He's still got the power one. He's still got the steel ball. He still got his electro whip. So I gotta conserve. So now he just dashes around using his ribbons. He's like, well, what is this? And all of a sudden the ribbon energy's there. Tries to maybe close in on Danny. Danny's able to get out of the way. The ribbon energy I don't think works fast enough to catch Danny. However, the electro webs would at least be, kind of like a, think of like a demonic hopscotch or a jump rope. That's it. So, what was it? Lincoln string, Harvard shape. When they get in fights, this is what they say. Ghosts are rotten, man, and cotton, all that stuff. And Danny's out trying to avoid these electro whips. All the while, the Pac-Man's getting ready for like maybe one final one. Uses the power berry. He's hard to steal. He's a little slower, but now he just crashes down on Danny. Yeah! And double tap for the explosion to terminate. That uses the explosion or the shockwave that terminates the opponent. Danny gets caught. Danny wouldn't be terminated because, again, the ghosts in Pac-Man universe work very much differently to the ghosts in Hello Baby. You go girl. She's right. She's taking me out with my foot. Work differently to ghosts in Danny's universe. Danny's universe ghosts are much more durable, can take quite a bit more beatings than the Pac-Man ghosts. But Danny's now. That didn't tickle. Now finally Pac-Man goes into his final form, Paczilla. He can hold it for about 10 minutes. And just Just it sounds more like an elephant, whatever. So Pac-Zilla's oh, crud. So Pac-Man now just trying to home bet. Danny's doing the best he can, just firing shots at Pac-Man. Pac-Man's maybe, because he's so big at this point, it's going to take more than just a little blast from Danny to just hurt him. But Danny's also got, like a flashbang attack, which he could probably use to distract Giant Pac-Man. My eyes! Then he just keeps blasting and blasting. Giant blast, energy blast, cryonesis. Basically, the way the fight breaks down is that Danny will eventually the thing is, Pac-Man's abilities are limited in the sense that he will eventually run out of power-up berries. Danny doesn't have as far as I can tell, Danny does have a finite pool of energy he draws from, but that energy will recharge itself over time if he has some rest period, and he's got more of it to use. He's also got far more strategic advantage over Pac-Man. He's also has physicality over Pac-Man, durability over Pac-Man. Again, ghosts in Danny's world don't work on the same premise as Pac-Man's world. That's one of the big key factors in the fight, is that the way ghosts work in each world affects how the other opponent is going to deal with each other. And in Danny's case, Danny has the upper edge because ghosts are just far more dangerous in his world than they are in Pac-Man's world. And Pac-Man's not durable enough to take on Danny in a long-term fight. He might get a few lucky shots off, but, like, for instance, he could, like, maybe freeze Danny, but Danny could just go intangible and get out of that. He could burn Danny, but Danny could just put up a shield. That's the thing. At any point, Danny could put... I didn't even bring up Ecto Shield at all. He could easily put up an Ecto Shield to block a lot of this shit. So overall, I mean, I guess the answer... and again, it comes down... Eventually, Danny will just wear down Pac-Man. Pac-Man goes down. Now, that being said, I don't think it's going to be a fight to the death, because Pac-Man's going to be probably weakened. He's going to be down to his last life. Maybe 1 or 2 hard points left. He's going to be just... And then all of a sudden, Danny's like, okay, that's enough, kid. I don't want to fight you. And then all of a sudden they reconcile. Like, what? What? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. But anyway, I didn't even get to the ape Pac-Man, which would be hilarious. But, again, Danny would probably still be able to beat that. It's more of, is there any scenario where Pac-Man actually legitimately wins? Well, I suppose in a way... The only way he's going to actually be able to legitimately eat Danny is if he's huge. And he's going to need to eat one of the growing fruits, either Pac-Zilla or just the grow fruit. The only way for him to actually eat Danny, period, is to either knock Danny out and then eat him so he doesn't have time to get intangible, or he freezes Danny and then eats him. But then I don't see any real clear-cut way of Pac-Man winning, because Danny's durable enough to really withstand most of what Pac-Man can dish out. I mean, he can fight a drill. Pac-Man can only fly with that damn gravity berry, as far as I can tell. So he can really just avoid the Pac-Man for all he wants. I also don't know if Pac-Man can eat more than one fruit at a time. I don't think he can. If he could, he'd just eat them all at once. He'd be like, aha! And then if he could eat all, let's see. Let's hypothetical. If Pac-Man could eat all the food at once, I would definitely then argue for Pac-Man a lot more, because he'd had all those abilities plus the super smart one, so he'd be able to outthink Danny at that point. He'd have a far more variety of abilities than Danny ever could at that point. Turn invisible, be Godzilla's strength, be fire breathing, ice generating, bouncing, giant ape, giant Godzilla. He'd have so much on him then that... Oh, actually, the invisibility and the Godzilla thing would cancel each other out, because Danny would probably know where a giant Godzilla Pac-Man is, even if it's invisible, just because of the stomping of the feet. Actually, no, that's not true, because he'd be able to ignore gravity. If, in some weird scenario, which I don't know if he can, I don't think he can, because that'd be cheating in the game then, he could eat all the fruit at once and gain all those powers at once, then there's little I would argue for Danny. Well, I wouldn't argue again. No, the steel would... Danny can't shatter steel. And that power, the steel ball one, definitely gives him the steel, get high durability. But that being said, when he eats them, he automatically gains the ability. So eating both the Grow, the Zilla, and the Shrink would cancel out one of them. I think it'd cancel out the Zilla. That means he probably wouldn't be the size of Zilla. He'd probably just be the size of the Grow, because the Shrink cancels that out. So, I mean, taking the Zilla one out, actually, it's more in favor of him at that point, because then he can be even more maneuverable. Well, then the rubber cancels out the maneuverability. So, a lot of the fruit actually cancels out each other in terms of what they do. But that being said, I would definitely lean more towards Pac Man then, but in the scenario that seems more likely where he can't eat all of them at once, I gotta give it to Danny Phantom. Especially if we're going by Danny by the end of the series, I think Pac Man doesn't have the strength to really. I mean, he could put up a fight and definitely hurt Danny, but he couldn't knock him out, I don't think. I gotta give it to Danny about 100% of the time in that scenario. Now, again, in the scenario where he could eat all the fruit and get all the powers, that's a different thing entirely. Honestly, I'd probably actually give it to a Pac Man at that. Maybe, but I'd lean more like 60-40 in favor of Pac Man at that point, just because Danny's still got enough diversity, and he's had a lot more combat experience than Pac Man has, and he's been able to outthink smarter opponents. It's just super intelligence is not something Danny could easily go up against. So it's definitely debatable how this fight would go down in that case. I think I might lean towards Pac Man, but Danny could have a very good argument for him in that case. Like, we went up against Technus, for instance. Technus is technically a super intelligence. But anyway, I digressed. But again, but in a general standpoint, where he can only eat one fruit at a time and then gains the power of the other fruit after that and gets rid of it, I'm going to have to give it to Danny about 100% of the time, because no one single power, no matter what order you really do it in, could really do Danny in. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. If you have an idea for who would win, let me know. Put it in the comments below, and I will get to it. I promise I will. Ideas for who would win, or if you have something you'd like us to review, put it in the comments below, too. We'll get to that. Tomorrow is Kubo and Two Strings magic video, superhero video, and a Pokemon video. I got 4 videos to do tomorrow, folks. Gonna be a busy day, and it's my day off. I gotta work on my day off. No, I don't. It's more fun. It's not really work. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time, folks.